Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you here today, whether you're joining us in person or online. This Unitarian Universalist congregation embraces every person with open arms, just as you are. No matter your background, your beliefs, your appearance, whom you love, or what path you're walking, you are welcome in this space. This morning, we're happy to welcome the Reverend Kit Ketchum as our main speaker. Kit is a retired ordained UU minister, now living in Moses Lake, and she's also a new member of Cascade UU Fellowship, though she joins us on Zoom more often than in person. I'm your celebrant, Chris Rader, and many other people have contributed to our gathering today, as you can see from your printed program and the slide on the screen back. One of these slides, there we go, people who have helped, thank you all for your contributions. Our friends on Zoom can find the order of service and song lyrics in the chat. Today's Zoom host is Linnea Shannon. Will those in the sanctuary please turn around and look at the video camera above the exit sign, and we'll wave hello to those on Zoom. And now please take a moment to greet those around you, especially someone you may not know. I invite everyone to join us for coffee, treats, and conversation after the service. And please feel free to give feedback to us. We appreciate comments. They help us improve future services. We have a few announcements today. CUUF will hold another Path to Involvement class on Wednesday, October 15th, right here from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. It's a chance for relative newcomers to learn more about Unitarian Universalism and our community, including ways to get involved with our congregation. We'll have some light snacks and beverages afterwards for those who would like to stay and socialize. All are welcome to attend the dedication of Wenatchee's new Piscosa Plaza in Memorial Park a week from tomorrow, Monday, October 13th, which is Indigenous Peoples Day. We'll see 3 impressive sculptures, including one of Chief John Harmelt mounted on his horse, and we'll hear from some members of the Colville Confederated Tribes, as well as local dignitaries. The ceremony starts at 5 p.m. Lynn Madsen has an announcement for us.
Sunday, November 2nd is La Dia de los Muertos, and we will be having a fiesta here in our church that day. So, this is Nuestra Señora de los Nombres, Our Lady of the Names. So as part of our ceremony, we're going to invite you, this can will be in the back of the sanctuary, and you can take out an index card and write the name of a loved one that you would like to have honored on that day. If that person that you would like to honor is a member of CUP, a former member of CUP, or attended regularly, we would also like to invite you to write 3 words that you associate with that person on the index card. And we'll use these in our ceremony that Sunday. There will be further announcements inviting you to bring treats for that day. And explaining more about the service in our newsletter and up on the screen in the future.
All right. Thank you, Lynn. And now we have a word from our auction team.
Okay. Oh, look, there's Ruby, the auction diva. That's That's right. Cuff is turning the big 4-0 in November, and we're celebrating with an anniversary auction gala on November 1st.
40 is my favorite anniversary, the Ruby anniversary. I just love gems, rubies in particular, but others as well. Kathy, there are some real gems out there.
What do you mean?
People that donated to the auction last year. They are gems.
I know what you mean. People who hosted dinners.
And donated pieces of art.
The gems that donated services.
And the gems who donated experiences and vacation getaways.
And new items that people could use for holiday gifts.
And delicious food and wine.
The gems who taught classes.
I can just see those people sparkling. Wouldn't you all like to sparkle?
Yes. We need your donations. If you can't think of anything, well, the auction team is very creative and
Very creative.
yes. And they can help you turn something you love doing into something for the auction. Look for the sparkly hats after the service.
See you during the coffee hour, darlings.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. We gather today on the ancestral lands of the Pasquosa people, the original inhabitants of this region. For thousands of years, from the shores of Lake Wenatchee, along the Wenatchee River, and across the Columbia, the Pasquosa have been the thoughtful stewards of this land. They have thrived here, fishing, hunting, gathering plants for medicine and food, and honoring their cultural traditions. The Pasquosa, now one of 12 of the confederated tribes of the Colville Reservation, continue to live and carry on their heritage in this very place. We recognize with solemn respect that this land was taken through broken treaty obligations and the subsequent settlement by uninvited neighbors, colonizers. As a community, we stand in solidarity with our indigenous neighbors as they continue to uphold their traditions and advocate for recognition of their inherent rights. And now, Reverend Kit will lead us in our opening song, Gather the Spirit. It's hymn number 347. The words and music of this song were written by Jim Scott, and we are privileged to have him as our worship leader on right here at Cuff, December 7th. So please rise in body or spirit.
Just as a side note, I've chosen my 3 favorite songs for this morning's service, and I'm thrilled that we're all singing this together.
But don't you sit because we will light the chalice. Now Reverend Kit and I will light our chalice, which is a symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. In doing so, we kindle the flame of resilience within ourselves and our community. May the warmth of this chalice remind us of our enduring spirit, our capacity for renewal, and our interconnected strength in the face of life's challenges. Let's all join in saying the words on the screen or in your order of service. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share. And now, I have a nice children's story, but we don't have any children, so we have Maury gets to stay and Sarah gets to stay in here the whole time. Is this on, Darius? Thank you. But I'll tell the story anyway because it's got some beautiful photographs. Now is the time in our service when we get to hear from one another, to share things that have recently happened that have meaning for us, to honor life events that impact us in a deep personal way. It's not a time for political statements or advertising, but a time of reverence. You're welcome to come forward, say your name, share your brief remarks, and move a stone from the bowl into the water. But we won't do anything with candles, but I'm going to light this nice little chalice down here anyway. This little reading from Robin Goff is titled The Age of Aquarius. I'm choosing to live in the age of Aquarius. The AI voice, whatever intelligence that comes from, says, the age of Aquarius symbolizes a collective spiritual and societal shift toward freedom, equality, unity, and collective consciousness, characterized by innovation, technology, humanitarianism, and a quest for truth and enlightenment. That sounds positive to me, so I thank AI for the nice words, but I can no longer just be satisfied by saying the words. I choose to live in this paradigm now. So how do I do that? For decades, we have sung about the dawning of the age of Aquarius, and astrologists have heralded its arrival. Yet, in the outer world, I see little evidence of that. It has occurred to me that at this time, I can choose to live it. I can believe that it is already here and claim that, powerfully, I can shift my thoughts from ego-based consciousness to focus on oneness, truth, and equality among all beings. I can embrace collaboration over the quest for fame or fortune as an individual. The world of extreme separation is not sustainable and does not nourish my soul. The Piscean era embodies duality thinking, focusing on right and wrong, good and bad, have and have not. The Aquarian era brings us to yes and yes. There is wisdom in every person, and when I remain in judgment and criticism, I miss that truth. I set a clear intention to be the age of Aquarius, and remind myself of that every day. I take in the feeling and awareness that spirit is not just something out there somewhere. Rather, spirit is in me and moves through me all the time, just as it moves in all beings and things. I am part of spirit and part of earth, made up of these energies in form. Whenever I revert to thinking of spirit as some being out in the heavens that I call out to for help, I remember that I am in and of spirit. Instead of crying out, I can open deeply and allow the pure spirit of love to fill me. That means releasing emotions that cause constriction in my energy field. It means consciously releasing stress, moment by moment, using my breath and my thoughts to let go. I put myself into circles of people who share this quest and build a greater field that magnifies my experience of spirit in action. It is not my task to change the world through effort. It is my work to fill myself with the force field of pure love and allow that to radiate through me.
Thank you for inviting me today here. As I mentioned earlier, it's been 2+ years since I stood up in a pulpit. This is a kind of a new experience. I've been used to being retired. But I decided to make my words today kind of an odyssey-like thing, because I've learned some really important lessons over the years that I've been in ministry. Let me start over a little bit, because you already know that I've been in ministry for 25 years. It's kind of advertised in the, in your bulletin. But I started out with 25 years as a junior high school teacher. I've been through the mill, folks. Anyway, this is a summation of the thoughts that I've accrued over the last 50+ years. It was my turn to speak that day in September of 1992 at our homecoming service at the beginning of the new church year at Jefferson Unitarian Church in Golden, Colorado. As a member of the Committee on Ministry, I volunteered to give a brief homily on the ups and downs of the past year and our hopes and dreams for the coming year. I figured I could handle a bunch of Unitarians. After all, I'd been raising junior high kids for over 20 years, and I'd been a member at this church for over 20 years. So I got up in the pulpit, delivered my remarks with a couple of stories and reminders of what our congregation's year had meant to us and to the larger community, and returned to my seat. I figured I'd done all right. People paid attention. I saw a few nods, even a few smiles, and maybe some tears. Our minister, the Reverend Robert Latham, was next in the pulpit, and when he got up there, he turned to where I was sitting in the choir and said to me, "Kit, you missed your calling. You ought to be a minister." It was like the proverbial thunderbolt. I was stunned and sat for the rest of the service with Robert's words echoing in my ears. I ought to be a minister? I ought to be a minister? Maybe I ought to be a minister. Reviewing the 50-plus years of my life so far as I sat there, I realized that I had accumulated a number of the skills that I could see a minister might need: counseling, teaching, music, writing, herding cats, or rather junior high kids, even public speaking, if you can count lunchroom duty, and the use of a bullhorn on the playground. Maybe I could be a minister. Maybe I could do it. Yes, I think I could. But over the next few months, reality set in. I wasn't close to retirement. My son was barely out of high school and still living at home, and I was pretty well loaded down with the responsibilities of a single-parent household. So it didn't make any sense at all to quit my job as a school counselor and start studying at the local theological school. My calling was put on the back burner and eventually even set aside. Yet in 1995, 3 years later, the thunderbolt took a second swing. I had been elected a delegate to the UU General Assembly, which was meeting in Spokane that year. How many of you might have been at that General Assembly in 1995? And it was impossible to ignore the deeply buried desire in me to someday be one of those ministers. I had been able to retire that year unexpectedly. I would be receiving an early retirement bonus from the school district, and my son was living on his own. But after a long conversation with one of the women ministers I knew best, I went straight back to Colorado and enrolled at Olive School of Theology in Denver, a very liberal United Methodist seminary. And in May of 1999, I graduated from ILF and was ordained to the UU ministry by Jefferson Unitarian Church, all in the same weekend. Now, 25 years plus after that decision was made, I've been looking back over that stretch of time from the original thunderbolts that called me into ministry to this moment here in this room with this congregation of good and loving people. And I have been thinking about all I've learned about ministry that might mean something to you all as a congregation and as individuals. Because ministry, like many other careers and callings, is about service to others. It's about bringing one's experiences, learning, and compassion together in one desire to bring hope and courage to one's fellow humans, acting with integrity and purpose in creating positive change in the world. Ministers aren't the only ones who do this, of course. Think of yourselves and the ways you've spent your years on this planet. I invite you in a moment to say aloud into the silence of this room the ways your many abilities and opportunities have been acts of service to others. Everyone here, I'm guessing, has in their own ways brought hope and courage to our fellow humans. Not always through a job, but through the life-giving of hope and help to others. Now I'd like you to acknowledge out loud your own strengths and determination. Our world is trembling with the painful chaos going on outside these walls, and we together can address this. I invite you now in the silence of the room to just say your own personal contributions as a human being, as a person of love and human kindness. What have you done with your life? Just say it out loud. so we can all hear it. Don't worry about interrupting people. Just do it.
All together?
Yeah, sure, all together. What have you done? Uh-huh. I'm sure there are more out there. Raising kids. Feeding people.
Striving to make every situation better.
Striving to make every situation better. Conservation. I heard one over here, but I didn't catch. Compassion. What else? I just heard some more over here. Fighting for democracy and trail maintenance. No kidding. That's true. Yeah. Say it again? Equity Alliance. That must be an organization. Yeah. Interfaith justice. You know, that's what I like about Unitarian Universalists. We're all working our buns off to bring hope and care to the world. Now, you were going to say something. Foster parent. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah. Did we leave anybody out? Surgery in third world countries, making that happen. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay. Can you be more?
Designing theater.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If I knew you better, I'd have caught on to that right away, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. Fostering animals. These are all things we do. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Well, yes, it is. And while you're babbling, I'm going to get my cup of water. Keep babbling. Singing. Yes, in creation of groups just like CUF all over the world. By the way, we need one in Moses Lake. We need a UU congregation in Moses Lake. Can you help me get one? Anyway. Anybody else want to throw one into the mix? Making art, you bet. Yeah. Listening. Okay, I'll move on. Learning about helping others started for me at a very early age, as the eldest child of an American Baptist minister. From my dad, the Reverend Merritt Ketchum, I learned the importance of public service. I saw my dad serve on the library board of our small town, do electrical work for needy parishioners, drive migrant workers to their jobs in Eastern Oregon fields, and serve our community in countless small ways. I also learned from him that sermons should never be boring. My dad wasn't a particularly gifted minister, preacher in his own words, but he wasn't boring. He was 6'6" and weighed about 200 pounds, and he was an imposing character. So when Daddy said jump, we jumped. But he was also one of the kindest people I have ever known in my life. But I learned from him that ministry, like many kinds of work, is very stressful. That you can be the lightning rod for disgruntled folks, and that you must take good care of your health, because the stresses of ministry were a factor in my dad's early death at age 60 in a Goldendale hospital. I learned from being a member of the Ketchum family how valuable a faith community is. And I have been a member of a congregation almost ever since I was a kid. In the congregations I have joined over the years, whether Baptist or Unitarian Universalist, I watched the politics of church unfold. I saw how easy it was to criticize, and that it can have hurtful, permanent consequences. I saw the pain of petty criticism and the value of constructive, kind critique that took place face-to-face, not as anonymous comments on a survey or in the parking lot after a service. I saw how easily a great project could be derailed by an unhappy person. And I saw that it was important, no, it was essential for ministers to behave ethically in their relationships with congregants. But the downside of ministry did not scare me. I knew I had learned a lot from being a preacher's kid and from being an active layperson in several congregations. I thought I knew where most of the potholes were, and I vowed to avoid them. So off I went to seminary. I loved this experience of scholarship, writing, exploring biblical literature, designing worship. I was not so crazy about doctrine, which is a normal feature of a Christian seminary, however liberal. There were times I thought I would scream if I ever heard another word about Paul the Apostle. And the Trinity, for most of my fellow students, was a given. A Unitarian view was exotic. And as one of about a dozen UU students at Isle Seminary in Denver, I felt like the yeast in a loaf of bread dough. It had never occurred to many of my Christian peers to question the doctrine of Trinity. But I did get to thinking too highly of myself. I got good grades, had a good internship experience, some chaplaincy training, and I began to believe that I was pretty hot stuff. You can probably see what's coming here, can't you? And it was at the last meeting with the Ministerial Fellowship Committee, which is kind of which is the committee that kind of makes sure you're really ready to take on a congregation, that I began to learn probably the most important lesson a minister can learn: humility. I expected high marks, and they were kind, the MFC, but they told me I was too intense and needed to undertake a year of spiritual direction with someone who could help me figure out some of the spiritual issues I was struggling with, like humility, for example, or spiritual practice, or hardest of all, how to be in right relationship with family members who were very conservative and sure I was doomed, even using the word heretic at one painful point. But it was one of the most valuable lessons of my entire life. I learned how valuable an active spiritual life and regular spiritual practice were for me. I learned to pray to a power I couldn't describe or name or see or touch, which felt like a second skin, part of myself. And then I moved to Portland and started serving a little congregation that was a spin-off from First Unitarian downtown, and began to learn even more hard lessons. I was a rookie, and the congregation was wary. We managed to stick it out for 4 full years, making mistakes and figuring them out, patching things up and moving on. But the lessons I learned from that experience made me a much better, wiser person. I learned that too much ego is very dangerous. When one thinks too highly of oneself, one becomes a target. I learned to listen to and learn from criticism, but to let go of unkind or anonymous criticism. I learned that my strengths can also be my weaknesses when I push them too far. Friendliness and warmth can become intrusive or too personal. I was occasionally seen as bulldozing, and my way with words occasionally led me into eloquent defensiveness. I learned how important it was to say that I am sorry for mistakes, for a remark that seemed unkind or insensitive, for an action taken in haste. I learned that I needed to atone for my mistakes, to make amends, to repair damaged relationships. And I learned, most importantly, that I am only human, that I will make mistakes, that I need to listen when called to account, and that my behavior as a minister or as any human being speaks more loudly than any words. These are personal lessons as well as professional lessons. These were things I needed to learn as a human being. All the lessons I've mentioned can be useful in an ordinary life, a life of a retiree, for example, or a teacher, or a parent, or musician, or a cook, or spouse. You and I have each experienced these kinds of learnings over our own lifespans. Some of the lessons have taken. Some of them we may have ignored, preferring not to look too hard at our own lives. Many of us, I suspect, myself included, have looked at other persons in judgment and said to ourselves, that person needs to learn a thing or two. And sometimes the best we can do is learn to keep our mouths shut instead of speaking our negative judgments out loud. Here are 3 life lessons for me, things I've learned as I've aged and looked back, things I've learned to keep in mind. Of course, I still have things to learn. I'm only 83, as I mentioned, after all, and hope to have a few more years to spend living a full life. My life lessons, just in case they are similar to yours. Number 1, conflict is a product of living together. It will always arise when people work and play together, but it doesn't have to hurt if it's handled thoughtfully, with differences of opinions stated tactfully without scorn or impatience. Secret conflict, however, is dangerous. My second one, human beings often act out the pain in their personal lives by disrupting congregational or family life, causing heartache and pain by stirring up trouble. That would never happen here, I'm sure. This is a time for all of us to act with compassion, not by taking sides, but by understanding the pain and helping to alleviate that pain if possible. And if not, taking steps to protect the community by creating policies to deal with disruptive behavior and creating a covenant that offers a process for solutions. And 3, great turmoil can open us up to great joy. If we remember our mistakes and learn from them, rather than shoving them underground and refusing to deal with them, making mistakes, that too, making amends is a better route to take. In closing, I'd like to offer these words. It's a Sunday school song that I learned when I was about 8 years old, just old enough to understand its message. You may know it too, if you have, excuse me, if you have, one more little sip here. If you came from a normal, golly whiz. I'm not going to try to sing this song. I'm just going to say the words because my voice is about to give out. But if you know it and you would like to sing it softly while I recite it, feel free. I'm just going to quote the first 2 verses, which are the ones I remember best. The name of this little song is I Would Be True. Anybody remember that little song? Yeah. Think about this. Here are the words. I would be true, for there are those who trust me. I would be pure, for there are those who care. I would be strong, for there is much to suffer. I would be brave, for there is much to dare. I would be friend of all, the foe, the friendless. I would be giving and forget the gift. I would be humble, for I know my weakness. I would look up and laugh and love and lift. I would look up and laugh and love and lift. Thanks for listening this morning, and thank you for your invitation to speak today. Oops, I'm sorry. I was gonna curtsy.
Thank you for your generosity. We are all blessed from your kindness. And now, please rise to sing hymn number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
As we get ready to say goodbye to each other, I'd like to bring back to us the words, the 3rd verse of this song, because we have people who are like us, imprisoned through no fault of their own, suffering in jails at the hands of a tyrant. Let's just say those words together. When tyrants tremble, sick they feel, the freedom ringing. When friends by shame, both loud and near, how can I keep from singing? To prison cells and judge and vile, our thoughts to them are winging. When friends strike shame, are undefiled. How can I keep from singing? Thank you for inviting me here.
And we'll now extinguish our chalice. Please join in saying the words on the screen or in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until, in our lives, until we are together again. And now let's form a circle and sing one more time.